Kamala wined and dined in San Francisco, and all of the people in North Carolina, no helicopters, no rescue. It's just what's happened there is very bad. They're offering them $750 to people whose homes have been washed away.
Donald Trump is unfortunately airing some of the most unfortunate and vicious lies that have morphed into all sorts of conspiracy theories regarding the federal government's response and relief efforts following the devastating Hurricane Helene. Now, for the purposes of this conversation, we're gonna go through some of his allegations. Now, he is using this tragic event as a way to kind of engage in campaigning. He has politicized it, and it has led to a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misinformation. For instance, what you just heard there, where Trump basically alleges that the victims of the hurricane are only getting $750. Well, that's actually false. That is not the only aid that they will be getting. In fact, Lara Trump was confronted with the facts on this while being interviewed by Dana Bash. Let's take a quick look at that video and I'll further debunk this allegation.
Why is he spreading misinformation in a crisis like that? And does that concern you about your fellow North Carolinians and how and whether they could actually get help?
I am incredibly concerned in North Carolina. I hear every day from people on the ground there, and they are desperate for help. Kamala Harris did come out and say it's $750 per family right now. The idea that we've spent $650 million in fiscal year 24 on the migrant crisis that Kamala Harris was responsible for stopping, and by all accounts, she created by having an open door policy at our southern border,
but
is
Laura,
infuriating.
Laura, let me just stop you right there.
Of this country.
Let me just stop you right there because I just want to not let this get out there. You are right that FEMA is giving $750, but that is a first step. It's for immediate needs. It's called the serious needs assistance.
So what Dana Bash was saying there is 100% true. The $750 is a first time immediate lump sum of aid that the victims of the hurricane were given just to hold them over until they get more aid. And look, I actually know someone who lives in the area that's been devastated by North Carolina. And so I wanna kind of relay the message that she's been trying to spread in regard to what's happening on the ground there. There are small rural communities that are in a mountainous region of North Carolina. They were hit the hardest. And because there's usually like one road leading to their town, what happened is the hurricane destroyed those roads, and it's really difficult for the first responders to get to them and give them help. And these people are devastated, they have lost everything. And while I get that we're in an election cycle right now, Cenk, like politicizing it like this is pretty gross. It really is.
Yeah, so let me break that down because there's two things. One is politicizing and the other is the lies. So politicizing it, well, you say, well, everything's politicized, right? And we often make fun of that, politicians talking about don't politicize things. But in the case of natural disasters like this before an election, pre-Trump, they would try really hard not to politicize these things. And so Biden and Harris are from the old world. So they're doing the best they can in getting them aid and help. Although if you said to me, hey, I bet they prepared ahead of time for this hurricane season a little more than average because they know hurricane season happens right during an election. It's a very important election. They want to be able to respond as quickly and as efficiently as they can. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but that's not such a bad thing to be well prepared. I wish they'd be well prepared for all the hurricanes. But right now, they don't normally politicize this. They didn't politicize it when it came to Trump on this type of stuff, right? They would ask for the help when there was the forest fires and the hurricanes under Trump. So Trump has no bounds. So he politicizes everything and lies about everything. So I'm not at all surprised he is making up all sorts of things about this, even though it might actually hurt people. So, for example, when he says in that clip, and he said it many times now, they're not gonna help you at all. They're not coming, they're never gonna come, they didn't come. All that stuff's not true. And if you're in one of the areas that Anna was talking about that's hard to reach, you might give up hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And you might be in tremendous despair, and that might cause you an incredible grief, and it might lead you to make the wrong decisions. Because remember, guys, we don't believe a word Trump's saying because we're on this planet. But on Planet MAGA, they believe every word he says. So if he says they're not coming, they're going to really believe that the federal government has already abandoned them and is in the middle of helping someone in Mexico, right? So they might make all the wrong decisions based on that. Then the $750 lie. See, that's the thing. I talked to you guys before. You only need one video to confirm your bias. You need dozens and dozens of videos and evidence to overturn a bias. So the minute you see Kamala Harris on video saying we're gonna get everybody $750 and they cut the video there, they go, aha! It's only $750. No, that's what they normally give under all circumstances like this, immediately for food, water, immediate relief. Then they assess the damage that you had and then react accordingly to the damage that you had. They don't know if you lived in a $100,000 house, $1 million house, etc. right? So these things are obvious once you break it down, but right-wing media and Trump lie to you on purpose and get you to, they're trying to get their viewers and trying to get his, not just his voters, all voters to believe that nothing's gonna happen, $750 is the only thing they're gonna give you because they gave the rest to undocumented immigrants.
And that the Democratic Party is not interested in helping with relief efforts in Republican parts of the country, right?
Yeah.
So like he's trying to put out this lie to make it appear as though the Democratic Party is vindictive and that they're retaliating against Republican voters. There's no indication of that. And look, to the point you were making earlier, Cenk, it's not just about them giving up, right? Think about how these people are experiencing extreme despair, okay? Just imagine losing your home, potentially losing members of your family. I was reading about how the smell of death is permeating now, okay, in parts of North Carolina. And then on top of that, adding additional stress and despair to people by alleging that they're not gonna get any help. I mean, it's just devastating and unnecessary and so deeply cruel and immoral. But I do wanna give you some more details because his lies were so outrageous that the editorial board at the most read newspaper in North Carolina, the Charlotte Observer, felt the need to put out a piece. It's titled, "Shame on Donald Trump for Worsening North Carolina's Helene Tragedy with Political Lies." And in it, they write that by every indication, state and federal agencies have been working to help people in need. They've been airlifting food and other supplies to affected areas, helping families get information about missing loved ones, providing monetary assistance to folks whose homes were destroyed, working to clear and repair roads and get critical infrastructure back up and running. And they even go so far as to cite some of the specific lies that Donald Trump has put out there, including this, that Trump has also said that Georgia Governor Brian Kemp couldn't get President Joe Biden on the phone to help his state with hurricane relief, a claim that Kemp himself debunked. Now, some of you already know, but just in case anyone missed it, this was a hurricane that impacted several states, not just North Carolina. Georgia was also impacted. The Independent called out this particular lie from Donald Trump as well, writing that Trump attacked Vice President Kamala Harris and the Biden administration in a Truth Social post for supposedly going out of their way to not help people in Republican areas, a false charge. A Republican lawmaker representing 3 counties in hard-hit Western North Carolina, which is largely rural and politically trends conservative, has called it a junk conspiracy. And by the way, it appears that Governor Kemp in Georgia also thinks this is a junk conspiracy because he actually ended up praising the job that the Biden administration has done in responding to this disaster. The Hill writes, Kemp praises Biden's Hurricane Helene response amid Trump criticism. And just to give you the exact quote, Kemp said this of Biden, and by the way, they did meet. Biden just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, we got what we need. We will work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that. But we've had FEMA embedded with us since, a day or two before the storm hit, which, by the way, I myself didn't know that until I read that quote from Brian Kemp. But unfortunately, Cenk, it's not just Donald Trump who's spreading these lies. He's got all sorts of people surrounding him and supporting him who are also spreading those lies, including Senator Tom Cotton.
Here's what Deanne Criswell, the FEMA administrator, had to say about it. Take a look. This level of misinformation creates this scenario where they won't even come to us. They won't even register. And I need people to register so they can get what they're eligible for through our programs.
Senator, what do you say to that criticism that Mr. Trump is confusing people at a very time when they need help the most?
Well, I don't think he's confusing anyone. I think the administration did get caught flat-footed here, and that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have proven to be overmatched by events again. If you hear from Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who's very close to this, is monitoring it on the ground, Georgia's response, he said that the administration's response has been lackluster.
Well, as I just provided the evidence, what you just heard from Tom Cotton is not true. It's totally untrue. It is a brazen lie. What was really frustrating, though, is that he wasn't fact-checked on that at all during that conversation.
No, Anna, fact checks are evil and biased. And when you're the enemy of the facts, then you know you're on the right side. Are you sure about that, MAGA? Are you sure about that? Or let me break down two more lies. So they say the Republican areas are not getting the help because of vindictiveness from the Democrats. Now, where would they come up with an idea like that? Because that's what they did when they were in charge. And last week we shared with you guys quotes from inside the Trump administration, the most senior administration officials there helping with emergency aid under circumstances like this said Trump would often refuse to help areas that were blue areas. They had to go through long meetings to convince him that there were Republicans who also lived in those areas. Actually, not even Republicans, he doesn't care about that. People who voted for him specifically. And they had to show him a map of Orange County and how many Republicans are there before he'd release the aid. Because he's a vindictive prick. He's one of the worst people you've ever heard of. And so he thinks, oh, I bet other people are just as evil as I am, and that they'd withhold aid for political reasons if they didn't get the votes. Well, no, Donald Trump, I got breaking news for you. You're one of the worst people in the country, and almost no one else thinks as immorally as you do. I've got more.
Yeah,
Anna.
I just wanted to double down on what you're saying in regard to the projection here. Because if people don't trust us, it's the left-wing show, that's fine. Charlotte Observer, I mean, it is a paper in a state that isn't representing like a hardcore blue state, right? And they also called Trump out on that. They write that as president, Trump could be flagrantly partisan in times of disaster, and on at least 3 occasions hesitated to give disaster aid to areas he considered politically hostile or ordered special treatment for pro-Trump states. Trump was hesitant to send disaster aid when California was ravaged by wildfires in 2018, that was the Camp Fire, until he learned the affected part of the state was saturated with Trump voters.
Yeah, and so look, the Trump supporters are not going to care about that at all. They're probably going to celebrate and going, yes, our areas are going to get more money, because they view it as inside the wagons we trust and protect, outside the wagons, which is all the rest of you, we couldn't give a damn about. Whereas progressives view everybody inside the wagon. So if you told us, hey, we're not going to send relief to North Carolina or Georgia, we'd say, are you nuts? Those are American citizens. Of course you go help them, right? So now, and that's why, look, local Republicans, especially when things happen right then and there, both in the 2020 election and in this disaster relief situation, they tell you right away, no, Trump is lying. And because they're on the ground, they're with the people, they see the money coming in, they see FEMA, they see their own citizens and constituents, and they go, well, that's just a flagrant lie. None of that is true, right? And then later, they'll be overwhelmed by a tsunami of Trump propaganda and Trump fans yelling at them, lie, 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 lie. If you don't lie like Trump, then we hate you and we're gonna drive you out of the Republican Party. And give credit to a lot of those local Republican officials who have resisted that all along, like Brian Kemp. I got no love for that guy in any other way, but he has been very strong and consistent on not lying on any of these issues. Okay, last lie is about the 600 million going to undocumented immigrants that have come in. And oh my God, that's why FEMA's running out of money. Is it true the 600 million appropriated for that, for housing of those immigrants? Yes, that part is true. Again, they have one piece of, they find a fact and then they build a fortress of lies around it. So is it true that that would have gone to North Carolina or Georgia? No, everyone is saying that the affected areas are getting exactly what they would have gotten otherwise. Is it true that Mayorkas, the head of Department of Homeland Security, said, but for the next hurricane, we're running out of money and we need new money. Yes, he did say that. Is it because of the 600 million? No, that's in the budget every year. It's a certain number based on how many people need housing. If you don't have that number, it's not like, oh, then the migrants don't come in. No, then the migrants become homeless and are all over the streets. So
can I actually jump in with that? So I think that there is a misunderstanding in regard to how money is appropriated. So money is appropriated by Congress for very specific purposes. And you can be critical of how, Congress appropriates a lot more money for wars abroad or appropriates money for other things that you don't think are as important as taking care of our people, of Americans, especially after a natural disaster like the one that was just experienced by Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. By the way, there's another potentially devastating hurricane barreling toward Florida as we speak. So I'm really concerned about that. But I think that might be a valid criticism, because you see the aftermath of natural disasters in states like California following the wildfires, like the Maui fires, for instance. Those people have not been made whole. And I think that is a failure of government overall. And I think that those people should be taken care of and made whole. But the idea that there's just one giant pot and the federal government gets to pick and choose what to do with that money from that giant pot, it doesn't work that way. The money is specifically allocated for specific purposes.
Yeah, and so I'm asking people to be thoughtful about their criticism. It might be a tough ask from some quarters, certainly from Trump and anyone associated with him. But if you say, hey, we should give more money to FEMA because now climate change has made these hurricanes so much more severe. And so again, in the areas that were wiped out that Anna referred to earlier, one person again called it a 1,000-year storm. We're getting a 1,000-year storm once a year, maybe twice a year now, because climate change has made them more severe. So you say FEMA is not getting enough, 20 million is not enough, okay. But then you could take from any part of the budget under that way of thinking. So you could say, why is all of FEMA getting 20 billion for all of the storms, every natural disaster, plus all the other things they have to do, like house the migrants, otherwise they're gonna be homeless all over the country. All of that money, 26 billion to Israel as an add-on, just a cherry on top. And then the Republicans would say, the Republican voters, not their politicians, would say, how about Ukraine? Okay, let's have conversations about how we prioritize overall. That is a really important conversation.
Agreed.
We're not shutting that down at all. But within this budget, the 600 million is less than $1 billion, just to help you, okay? And the other 19.4 million goes towards natural disasters. And so it's not, the 600 isn't taking away from the rest. And why are they starting to run out of money? Because of climate change, we have nonstop catastrophic storms and natural disasters. We should actually be addressing that root cause, but who blocks that? All the Republican politicians, including Donald Trump, because they get tons of money from oil companies. So their answer is drill, baby, drill, which creates all of these problems. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.